checks and balances for the government, for the evidence that comes through the district or the grand juries. They review it to determine, is there sufficient evidence for this case to go to court? They determine yes, they no bill it, or they true bill it. If they determine there's not, they no bill it. Okay? True bill, no bill. That's when the grand jury decides there is enough evidence, true bill, they will true bill it. What that means is the case just continues in the court system. If it's no bill, the case ends immediately. Boom. Done. Gone. Out of the system. Okay? Generally, prosecutors use the grand jury system as a way to kick a case out with saving face. They have a case that truly is a very hotbed topic out there, because you know some of these topics hit. Okay, I'll be the first to tell you, grand juries do not like indicting police officers. Why? There was one that was no bill in Fort Worth, I think it was. Why is that? It's because now, you're looking at the facts of the case, but generally, grand juries don't like doing that because they're out there putting themselves in harm's way. So they're different than me and you. We're not in harm's way all the time. They are. So there's a little bit of an intensity there. So grand juries have a tendency to kind of go, well, we look a little further. Okay?
We see the case that they use for release, the video that they use for release the police officer that was arresting a person and tasing for more than 20 seconds.
Yes. And I think they did indict. There was one that they, yes. I think so, yes. There was one that they indicted, which is fine. I mean, they had sufficient evidence, and they decided to charge him with a crime. So the case then rolled into the court system, and then now it's a matter of either, there's a fork in the road. Either we go to trial, or we plead bargain. Okay? On capital murder cases, we don't plead bargain. Okay? Generally, for the most part, don't plead bargain. Unless they decide not to go for the death penalty. Okay? Because you're looking at and I'm going to kind of go through in a second what each level is, so you can kind of see it. But on capital murder cases, which are murder cases, which warrant, there's only two punishments, either life without parole or death. Okay? All right, so they're looking at if the state decides not to seek the death penalty, what happens is it reverts back to life without parole. It's a relatively new law, too.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
In capital murder capital cases, if the state does not seek the death penalty, the punishment is life without parole. There's nothing else.
Did you say something about something being reverted?
It reverts to life without parole.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Let's talk about, we've talked a little bit about that. Let's talk about now the punishment in Texas when it comes to criminal cases. You do want to write this down. Okay? I want to start at the top and work my way down. Now, in Texas, what do? We classify cases based on severity. Based on severity. What do I mean severity? Harm. Harm that's done to individuals, harm that's done to society. That's how we classify. Let me give you an example. Top rung, okay? So here we're going to work our way down. I'm not going to run the board because those pins don't work. All right, so I'm just going to work our way down. So make sure I'll go through it slow, okay? Capital murder is the top. Okay? Life without parole or death is the punishment. Life without parole or death is the punishment. So, what meets the criteria for capital murder? Capital murder is when you commit a homicide, like I told you, but there's other extenuating circumstances. A child under the age of 8, police officer in the line of duty. Or, what you'll see the most is in the commission of a first-degree felony. In the commission of a first-degree felony. I'm going to get into that. Okay? The next rung is first-degree felony. First-degree felony is punishable by 5 to 99 years or life in prison.
Did you say 5?
5 to 99 years, and then next to the 99, put parentheses, life, L-I-F-E. There's a difference. Okay? So what would that be? Murder. Intentionally knowingly kill somebody. Shane pulls out a gun in here, shoots me, kills me, and walks out the door, that would be a first-degree murder.
You keep saying this on camera.
I know.
You wanted that somewhere, so.
I know. I'll start using other names. I'll just make up
At least
something.
it's on camera.
No, I'll say like Steve or John or I'll say Seth. That's a good name. He's out of the view of the camera. So, first degree is, it's like it's homicide. Now, it's also other elements to other crimes too. Okay? Could be what we call aggravated robbery, aggravated sexual assault of a child. Okay? That term aggravated, what does that mean? Not necessarily.
Forcefully?
I'll tell you in a second. Make sure everybody writes. Okay, so you've got first degree felony, okay? So off to the side. Aggravated is the use of a weapon or the threat of deadly force. So, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to kill you. It means that they put out the threat that they're going to kill you. That I hate to use this term, but you got to understand, it's in criminal justice. We have to have this sort of kind of dry, or not dry, but kind of goofy humor, because it's a coping mechanism. But it's like supersizing. I use that example. The wives don't under it now. But it's kind of, what aggravated does is it bumps it to the next level. Okay, aggravated is the use of a weapon or the threat of deadly force. Okay? Everybody got that? Now, first degree we did now. Second degree felony is punishable by 2 to 20 years in the state penitentiary. 2 to 20.
Specifically state?
Yes, that's the difference because I'm going to talk about in a minute. Misdemeanors, you spend time in the jail, and felonies, you spend time in the state prison system. The system we call the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division.
Is what they call the state felonies.
We're getting there. So you're at second degree felony, 2 to 20. Let's do the next one. Third degree, 2 to 10. 2 to 10. These are the maximum ranges. If you get charged with a third degree felony, you're not getting more than 10 years. Okay? 2 to 10 years in the state prison.
Is first degree federal prison?
No, we're talking about state cases right now. We'll get into those. Federal, it's like take all this, what I'm telling you, put it into a blender, blend it all up, and then just dump it out. That's what federal. That's the federal rules. So 2 to 10, so, okay, so that's third degree. The next one is what we call a state jail felony. State jail felonies were created in around 1994, 95, roughly around in that time frame, 93, 94, around in that range. Okay? What that was, the purpose of that was to create, because there were so many people that were getting caught, sent to prison for small amounts of drugs, that they needed to create another level. Okay? So they had to create something that was another level to where they weren't going to the state prison system, they weren't going to the state, they weren't going to the county jails, they were going to another set of jails, which are called the state jails. So if you look at the state of Texas, there's called these state jails. That's what people that are charged with those crimes go to these state jails. Okay? The punishment range in a state jail facility for a state jail felony offense is 180 days to 2 years. A person will not spend more than 2 years in one of these jails. I worked in one down in Houston. Spent a lot of time there. Okay? So, up to 2 years in a state jail. What is that? What kind of crime is that? Small amounts of cocaine, things like that. That's what it was. It was a guy getting caught, pulled over, he's caught with a residue of cocaine, and what we're doing is sending the guy to prison. And the prisons were getting overcrowded, so they needed to find a way to be able to alleviate that overcrowding.
Niggas were dying back in weed, which was state jail.
No, not weed, cocaine. Because it was just small amounts. It wasn't like really, it was just like residue. It was just like residue on a pipe or something, or on a bag. After it's all been used, there's a residue there. The cop would find that and charge you with, and send you to prison. The prison was like overcrowded. You got this guy who, murdered all these people, and then there's a guy who just had a residue on a bag. So they needed to create a place to put those people because it was just,
This still seems like a real stiff sentence for residue. It's not-
keep in mind,
This was already considered in my.
keep in mind, it can still be probated. You can get probation. But it's 180 days to 2 years in this facility. So there's 180 day, 2 years, boom, in this facility. And there's no parole. Okay? What I just told you are felonies. Those are felonies in the state of Texas. Felony ranges. You have capital murder, first degree, second degree, third degree, state jail. Everybody got that? All right. We got the felonies. Now, what's the difference between felonies and misdemeanors? What would be the difference?
It's a crime that
Severity.
be in jail for a year.
Severity, yeah. It's severity. Why? So instead of being in the county jail, you're going to prison. It's more serious. So it's how we classify them. Fines are more, absolutely. In felony cases, there are fines. A person can be fined. But the problem with a fine is if the guy's going to prison for 10 years, does he really want to pay a fine? No. So what generally the courts do is they just give him credit for that. Well, I mean, it's like you're not going to get money out of the guy. Yeah, he's going to prison. It's like, yeah, like he's got a lot of cash on him. If he did have a lot of cash on him, the government's already seized it anyway. Okay? Felonies. We got the felonies. Serious, okay? So when you hear that word, what I want you to be thinking is punishment in state prison. Okay? All right? Now, misdemeanors. Misdemeanors. Class A misdemeanor. Class A. What is a Class A misdemeanor? Assault would be a Class A misdemeanor. It could be a Class B. Could be it could be assault as well as a C.
That's going to be aggravated.
But what's going to be aggravated assault would be probably a second degree felony. But what would move it up for assault, what would move it up from a lower misdemeanor to a higher?
But burglary of habitation, that's with intent to assault, correct?
Burglary of habitation,
Instead of like a-
that's higher, that's in the
But
felonies.
instead of like a breaking and entering or illegal entry, to get a burglary of habitation, you have to have the intent to assault, correct?
That would be hard to prove. What you're gonna find more on your, what moves it up from in misdemeanors is just the amount of harm you cause people. So, how much damage have you caused? So how much damage have you caused? Okay? So how much damage have you caused? If you've caused a scratch versus that person has lost their eye, don't you think it's gonna move up the ladder? That's how you classify it. So think about that. It's all based on harm.
And what is the punishment?
Punishment for a Class A misdemeanor, 1 year in the state jail. Or, I'm sorry, 1 year in the county jail, sorry. So Dallas County Jail, 1 year. Tarrant County Jail, 1 year, yeah, it's not a pretty place, like. There's no really, I've been in many county jails, there's no real good one.
Collin County, Collin is nice.
I've heard good things about,
Common is more like campus, it just spreads out.
I know, but it's clean, it doesn't smell.
It's a lot of
I
work.
get the best food there, that's what all the inmates used to tell me.
It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of walking. It's like, okay, you're in pod R, is where I go interview people. And
Really?
okay, so I'm like having to hike across, like, I look at it, see a long hallway, I'm like, ah. There are those little, like at airports, you have a little thing where it locks the people over thing, it's like, I think just have that.
They need one of those, I call it.
Just, yeah. So you're looking at college, I mean, so county jail, so placement in the county jail misdemeanors. So if you're charged with a misdemeanor, you're not going to state prison, you're going to county jail. So that's a, what did I say, Class A misdemeanor? Class B, 6 months in the county jail. Yeah, well, I'm gonna get into that in a second. And then you have Class C, which is traffic tickets. I'm sure some of y'all got coming here or almost did, or he's like, it's our traffic, there's no jail time up to a $200 fine. Actually, it can be more, but it depends on how many charges you have and stuff like that. But for the most part, just remember it's up to a $200 fine. No, you cannot get on Class C. Okay, now, there's some court cases that came out, but I'm just saying as a direct punishment, they can't, you know, you could be arrested, and then they put you in jail, and then they say, okay, we're just gonna give you a Class C. But if you commit a Class C offense, generally punishment's not gonna be in jail. There's a court case that came out a number of years ago that allows that if you're pulled over, and the cops, and you were committed a Class C offense, that police officer at their discretion can take you to jail. But if they're charging you with a Class C, I mean, generally you're gonna be released pretty quick. Because whatever that time you're gonna get that day credit, it's gonna cover your ticket. Now you can sit out tickets in the jail, you can do things like that, that's different. I'm just looking at straight punishment of that. Okay? So does everybody have a good understanding of that? So you're looking at everything from a Class C misdemeanor all the way up to capital murder. Every crime has a level. Okay? Randomly pick one through here. Now some of them change based on harm they do. Now, let me give you another example, like theft. What would increase something from theft from a smaller, from Class C to a higher felony? The amount or value. Yes. You go into QT and you steal a candy bar, okay, it's a candy bar, versus you go into a car dealership and steal a car. The difference, right? Why? It's still theft. The act itself is just theft. But it's the monetary value of what you stole. The same way as when you're talking about vandalism or criminal mischief is what Texas would call it. I don't know what vandalism is called, criminal mischief. It's how much damage you cause to a product, to something. Now, the example I had, I don't remember if I gave you guys this example, is in my office one time when I worked for the state for probation. I worked in the courtroom, I had a giant Houston Rockets poster in my office. Okay? There was a Houston Rocket that was being charged with a crime, and he was in court. Okay? And while he was in court, he was waiting not in my office, he was waiting outside my office. But then what happened was when I left, he walked into my office and he autographed the Houston Rockets poster. The district attorney wanted to charge him with vandalism. The problem with that is he increased the value of the poster. That makes sense? He didn't decrease the value, which is, if I go to LaShawn's house and spray paint inside her house, I've decreased the value because she's got to pay to clean it up.
Were you mad or excited?
I don't know. It was weird. It was crazy. Like, okay. But the state was like, we're going to charge this guy. I was like, okay, go for it. Can you? I didn't think you could. But he did. He signed it. It was like, increase the value of it. So at that point, how can you charge the guy with criminal mischief? How can you charge? You can't. So think about it from those contexts. Think about when I'm hoping, my goal is having you come out of here looking at the law a little differently. Looking at it more as kind of like a puzzle than you're looking at anything like pieces. You have this piece here, this piece here. And your job is to look at that with that filter and go, okay, this guy's been charged. Client calls you on the phone and says, Ashley, I got a client who's been charged with a second-degree crime. I need your help on this. You know it's a pretty serious crime. You should be thinking in your mind. Okay, he's looking at 10 years in prison. Okay? So it's a 10-year, so that's pretty serious. Okay, so we're looking at that. Now, the government can also enhance crimes as well. And how do they do that? By multiple charges. DWI. First DWI is a Class B misdemeanor. Punishable by what?
$200.
No. No. DWI is a Class B misdemeanor. Punishable by what? 6 months. Second DWI is a Class A misdemeanor, 1 year in the county jail. A third DWI is a third-degree felony. Once up that could even they can upgrade it even more.
Wait, is it the most you get is 1 year or the least?
The most. The most. What I gave you were the most. So, third DWI is a third-degree felony, not a state deal, it jumps over that. Third degree, so you're looking at what? 2 to 10 years in prison for drinking and driving. Now, they can enhance it even higher. There was a case in, I think, didn't Denton do one? I think Denton did one where they charged him with a first degree for multiple DWIs. I know Williamson County did one too, where they sentenced the guy to like 75 years for DWI, but I think he had like 19 of them or 20. 10. It's like, dude, at that point, it's not drinking, it's drinking and driving. Quit driving.
It's your lack of care of other people.
Well, stay away from cars. Just stay away from cars. But drink all you want. Just stay away from cars.
Plenty of alcoholics don't drive.
That's a good thing. There are people who get a DWI. If that was the case, then a guy like me wouldn't have a job, and Kathleen wouldn't have a job. But unfortunately, people do that. They do stupid things when they're drunk.
Dr. Benshaw.
Yes.
Why is it that the punishment for DWI has been revoked your driver's license and you must, I guess, put a breathalyzer test or whatever in the vehicle?
It's on the second vehicle.
Okay, when you're charged with all those DWIs, when you're charged, they could charge you with the first. Hold on. When you're charged with a crime, what happens is, Jorge has to write the bond, and a lot of times the judges will say, depending on the county, will say, we want you to put a breathalyzer in your car while you're on bond.
And no license.
And they're taking away your license. Now, your license can be suspended anyway under Texas law called ALR, which is called automatic license revocation. If you fail to blow in the breathalyzer, you say, I'm blowing in it, they will suspend your license for 90 days.
8 days.
Okay, if you blow and you blow above a .08, they suspend it for
It's
90 days, okay. Then so either way, you either refuse to blow, you're suspended. If you blow it, so your license will be suspended. Now, you can you can petition the court, and they can give you an occupational driver's license.
That's only limited to work, yeah.
But that's up to the judge, yes, it's a way to work, it's up.
Doctor, take kids to school.
But this is
They give you 8 hours, or sometimes only 4 hours a day.
But you're still going through the court system. And then when you get probation, which all of these offenses that I told you, you can get probation except capital murder. And there's some other offenses too, like kidnapping, aggravated. Most of your aggravateds are hard to get probation. But for like a DWI, you'll generally get probation, and they'll make you take a DWI school if it's your first DWI. And that will generally keep you from having to really apply for an occupational. You can get your you can still have access to your license. But if you fail to do the DWI school part of your probation, then they'll take it away. That's why you see that, because a lot of guys get probation. It's like a good example of this kid in Fort Worth who I hate to say, the one that went to Mexico, yes. The affluenza kid, I didn't want to say that. That was dumb on the psychology part. So the key with that kid was he was a juvenile that was being then brought into the adult system. Because they transferred him into the adult system. In our system, a juvenile can be transferred into the adult system. Research has shown that juveniles that are transferred into the adult system generally get a less harsher punishment than they were if they stayed in the juvenile system. So you're finding a lot of times it's okay for your client to get transferred into the adult system because the adult system is very adversarial and it's easier to fight versus in the juvenile system. The way our juvenile justice system works in Texas is it tries to be more of a non-adversarial type system. Okay, which means that a juvenile is entitled to certain rights, but it's really up to the judge to determine what's going to happen to this kid under due processes, of course. Because the way our juvenile justice system works is it's more like it's acting in what the best interest of the child is. It's acting like the parent. There's terms for it. It's called loco parentis, in lieu of the parent. So the judge is acting on behalf of the parent. So it's more of a civil matter. Our criminal system is adversarial. What do I mean by that? You have two groups fighting over each other. You have the defense and you have the state. The state has basically filed a complaint, and you file a charge, and you go fight it in court. Our juvenile justice system in the state of Texas has always been where it hasn't been very adversarial. It doesn't want to be adversarial. Why? Because the kid's, he's just a young